My son hired a woman to take care of me after his mother died. He said he was worried about me being alone. He said he wanted someone to cook for me, drive me to appointments, keep the house clean. He said it was a gift. Her name was Teresa. She was kind, she was warm, she was always smiling. She made my coffee exactly how I liked it. She remembered the names of my friends. She asked about my day like she actually cared. And every single night, after I went to bed, she sent my son a detailed report. What I ate, where I went, who I called, what I said, what was in my mail, what was in my medicine cabinet, what passwords I typed into my computer. Everything. She wasn't a caretaker. She was a spy. And my son had planted her in my home to map every corner of my life, waiting for the moment when he had enough information to take everything. It took me 4 months to figure it out. And when I did, I didn't fire her. I didn't confront my son. I did something much more effective. I started feeding her lies. And those lies became the trap that destroyed his entire plan. Before we go any further, thank you for being here. If this story has caught your attention, take a second and tell me in the comments where you're watching from today. It means more than you know, and it truly helps this channel reach people who need these stories. And a gentle reminder, while this story carries real emotions and real lessons, some names, details, and events have been fictionalized for narrative and educational purposes. Any resemblance to real individuals is coincidental. The truth behind this message is what matters. Stay with me. My name is Franklin Tate. I'm 65 years old. I live in a house on Sycamore Road in Savannah, Georgia. It's a 2-story Victorian that my wife, Diane, restored with her own hands over 20 years. She stripped the paint, refinished the floors, replaced the windows, rebuilt the porch railing piece by piece until this house looked the way it had in 1892 when it was first built. Diane was an architect. She designed schools, libraries, community centers, buildings that served people. But the Sycamore Road house was her masterpiece. She poured herself into it the way artists pour themselves into their greatest work. Every room had her fingerprints on it. The kitchen tiles she'd chosen at a salvage yard in Charleston. The light fixtures she'd found at an estate sale in Wilmington. The stained glass window above the front door that she'd commissioned from a glassmaker in Asheville. The house was worth about $680,000. In Savannah's historic district, that was conservative. Diane had turned a crumbling Victorian into something worth almost 3 times what we paid for it in 1998. Diane died on April 5th, 2023. Stroke. Sudden. She was in her studio working on plans for a new community library, and she collapsed. By the time the ambulance arrived, she was gone. No warning, no illness, no time to prepare. One moment she was drawing lines on a blueprint. The next moment, she was gone. I didn't handle it well. Nobody handles sudden death well, but I handled it particularly badly. I stopped eating. I stopped leaving the house. I stopped returning phone calls. I sat in Diane's studio surrounded by her unfinished drawings, and I didn't move for days at a time. My friend Charles Beckett found me on the 5th day. Charles was a retired history professor, the kind of man who still wore tweed jackets and read actual newspapers. He'd known Diane and me for 25 years. He let himself in with the spare key, found me in the studio, and quietly made me a sandwich. "Franklin, you need to eat." "I need Diane." "I know, but she'd be furious if you starved yourself in her studio." He was right. Diane would have been furious. She was practical about grief the way she was practical about everything. She used to say, "Mourn me for a week, then get up and build something." I ate the sandwich. I showered. I started the slow, agonizing process of learning how to exist without the person who'd been the center of my life for 34 years. I have two sons, Patrick, born 1993, and James, born 1996. Patrick is my oldest. He's 32 now. He lives in Atlanta, about 4 hours from Savannah. He works in pharmaceutical sales, not the kind where you're in a lab, the kind where you take doctors to dinner and convince them to prescribe your company's drugs. He makes good money. He spends better money. Patrick has always been the one who needed to look successful, even when the success was financed by credit he couldn't afford. Patrick and I have always had a complicated, hated relationship. He was Diane's child more than mine. They shared the same creative instincts, the same eye for beauty, the same impatience with people who didn't meet their standards. When Diane was alive, Patrick called regularly, visited often, was present. After she died, he became something else. James is my youngest. He's 29. He lives in Savannah, about 20 minutes from my house. He works as a high school history teacher and coaches the JV basketball team. He makes $42,000 a year and doesn't complain about it. James is quiet, steady, and has his mother's hands, the kind that fix things rather than break them. James came by every day after Diane died. He'd bring dinner. He'd sit with me on the porch. He didn't try to fix my grief. He just sat in it with me, which is the only thing that actually helps. Patrick came to the funeral. He flew in from Atlanta wearing a suit that cost more than James's monthly rent. He gave a beautiful eulogy, polished, emotional, the kind of speech that makes a room cry. Then he pulled me aside at the reception. "Dad, we need to talk about the house." 5 hours after his mother's funeral. 5 hours.
"Not now, Patrick.
I know the timing's bad, but this house is valuable, and you're alone now. We should start thinking about what makes sense."
What makes sense is for me to live in my wife's house."
"Dad, this place is too much for one person. The maintenance alone, the historic district regulations, the restoration upkeep, it's thousands a year."
"I'm aware. I've been paying it for 25 years.
I'm just saying, there are options. We should explore them."
The only thing I'm exploring right now is how to survive tomorrow. Go back to the reception, Patrick."
He went, but the seed was planted, and I knew, even through the fog of grief, that Patrick wasn't going to let it go. 3 weeks after the funeral, Patrick called with a proposal. "Dad, I've been thinking. You shouldn't be alone. It's not safe. What if you fall? What if you have a medical emergency? You need someone in the house with you."
"James comes by every day."
"James has a job. He can't be there around the clock. I'm talking about a professional. Someone who can cook, clean, drive you places. Make sure you're taking care of yourself."
"A caretaker."
"A companion. Someone to help you through this transition."
"I don't need a companion, Patrick. I need time."
"Dad, please, let me do this for you. I've already found someone. Her name's Teresa Malone. She's experienced, she has great references, and she's available immediately. I'll cover the cost." That surprised me. Patrick offering to pay for something was unusual. Patrick spent money on Patrick. The idea that he'd spend money on a caretaker for me, that was new. "How much does this cost?" "Don't worry about it. It's my gift to you." Something about the way he said gift made me uneasy. But I was grieving, exhausted, barely functional. The idea of someone in the house, someone who could cook a meal I didn't have to think about, keep the kitchen clean, be a presence in rooms that felt hollow without Diane, was appealing. "Okay," I said, "but it's temporary. A few months until I'm back on my feet."
"Of course, temporary, just until you're feeling better."
Teresa Malone arrived on a Monday morning. She was 44 years old, medium build, brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She had a warm face and a way of entering a room that didn't demand attention. She was pleasant without being intrusive, professional without being cold. She brought a suitcase and a box of kitchen supplies. "I like to cook with my own tools," she said with a smile. "I hope that's okay." "That's fine." She settled into the guest bedroom on the first floor. Within hours, the house smelled like fresh coffee and something baking. By evening, she'd prepared a meal: roast chicken, roasted vegetables, homemade bread. It was the first real meal I'd had in weeks. "This is wonderful, Teresa." "I'm glad you like it, Mr. Tate. Mrs. Tate's kitchen is beautiful. It's a joy to cook in." She'd called it Mrs. Tate's kitchen. Not my kitchen. Not the kitchen. Mrs. Tate's kitchen. It was a small thing, but it told me she was paying attention. She knew this was Diane's house. She knew to honor that. For the first few weeks, Teresa was perfect. She cooked 3 meals a day. She kept the house spotless. She drove me to doctor's appointments and the pharmacy. She was respectful of my space. She didn't hover, didn't intrude, didn't try to reorganize my life. She was simply present. A warm, competent presence in a house that had become unbearably empty. I started to relax. I started eating regularly. I started sleeping better. I even started working in Diane's garden again, something I'd abandoned after she died. Teresa would bring me coffee while I pruned the roses, and we'd talk about the weather, about Savannah, about nothing important. James liked her. He'd come by for dinner and Teresa would set an extra place. They'd chat easily. James told me he was relieved. "Dad, she's good for you. You look better than you have in months." "She's a good cook." "It's more than cooking. You're not alone anymore. That matters." He was right. I wasn't alone. And for a little while, I forgot to be suspicious. It was Charles Beckett who noticed first. Charles came for dinner one evening about 2 months after Teresa had moved in. We ate in the dining room, Teresa's roast, Charles's wine, conversation about a book Charles was writing about Savannah's colonial history. After dinner, Teresa excused herself to clean up. Charles and I moved to the study. He closed the door, which was unusual. Charles was not a door-closing kind of person. "Franklin, I need to tell you something."
What's wrong?
"This morning, I was at Clary's Cafe having breakfast. I saw Teresa at a table in the back. She was on her phone, and I didn't think anything of it, until I heard her say your name."
My name?
She said, "Mr. Tate received mail from First National today. It looked like a financial statement. I'll try to get the account number." Then she said, "He had a phone call with someone named Jean about the house. I'll find out more." I went cold. Who was she talking to? I couldn't hear the other end. But Franklin, she was taking notes, in a small notebook, writing things down while she talked. She could have been talking to a friend, mentioning me casually. She said account number, Franklin. She said she'd try to get it. That's not casual conversation. That's surveillance. I sat in my study and felt something shift inside me. The same instinct that had prickled at the funeral when Patrick first mentioned the house. The same unease I'd felt when he'd offered to pay for Teresa. The same quiet alarm that Diane would have heard immediately, because Diane always heard everything. "What do I do?" I asked Charles. "First, you verify. Don't confront her. Don't change anything. Just watch. And if what I heard is what I think it is, then your son has put a spy in your house." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to the house settle. The old Victorian sounds I'd known for 25 years,
the creaks and groans of a building with history. And beneath those sounds, I could hear Teresa moving downstairs, quietly, carefully, at 11:30 at night. I got up. I walked to the top of the stairs and looked down. The hallway was dark, but there was light coming from the study. My study. The room where I kept my files, my computer, my financial documents. I crept down the stairs. The study door was slightly open. Through the crack, I could see Teresa. She was sitting at my desk. My computer was on. She was taking photographs of the screen with her phone. My blood turned to ice. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I watched her photograph 3 screens. What looked like my bank account, my email inbox, and a document I couldn't identify from the hallway. Then she closed everything, wiped the mouse and keyboard with her sleeve, and turned off the computer. She walked out of the study. I pressed myself against the wall in the dark hallway. She passed within 2 feet of me without seeing me and went to her bedroom. I heard the door close. Then I heard the quiet tap, tap, tap of someone typing on a phone. She was sending the photographs, right now, at midnight, to someone. I went back to my bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from the cold, hard recognition of betrayal. My son had put a spy in my house. Teresa wasn't a caretaker. She was an intelligence gatherer, and every night, while I slept, she was photographing my financial life and sending it to Patrick. I wanted to storm downstairs. I wanted to throw her out of my house. I wanted to call Patrick and scream at him until my voice gave out. But I didn't, because Diane's voice was in my head, calm and practical as always. Don't react, Franklin. Document. Then act. The next morning, I called Charles. You were right. She was on my computer last night, photographing financial documents. What are you going to do? I'm going to do what Diane would do. I'm going to build a case. And then I'm going to turn this whole thing around on both of them. Charles connected me with a lawyer named Victoria Shaw, former prosecutor, now in private practice, specializing in elder exploitation cases. When I told her the situation, she didn't hesitate. Mr. Tate, what your son and this woman are doing constitutes unauthorized access to private financial information, invasion of privacy, and potentially the groundwork for financial exploitation or guardianship fraud. We need evidence. How do I get it? You already have something invaluable. You know what's happening while they don't know you know. That's the most powerful position you can be in. Here's what we do. Victoria laid out a plan that was both simple and devastating. Step 1. I install hidden cameras in my study and kitchen, legal in my own home in Georgia. Victoria provided the equipment, small, wireless, motion-activated. Step 2. I change nothing about my routine. I let Teresa continue her surveillance. I let her photograph my computer. I let her send reports to Patrick. Every action she takes is captured on camera. Step 3. I start feeding Teresa false information. Carefully, gradually. Things that would lead Patrick to make moves based on bad intelligence, moves that would expose his true intentions. Step 4. I contact the police when we have enough evidence. How long? I asked. A few weeks, maybe a month. We need a clear pattern. Multiple instances of unauthorized access, documented transmission to your son, and ideally, Patrick taking action based on the false information. That's when the trap closes. I installed the cameras that weekend. James helped me. I told him I wanted security cameras because I'd been feeling nervous alone in the house. He didn't question it. He spent a Saturday afternoon running wires and mounting small cameras that looked like smoke detectors. I didn't tell James about Teresa, not yet. I needed him innocent, genuinely unaware, because if his behavior changed, Teresa would notice, and I couldn't risk her alerting Patrick.
The cameras captured everything. Night after night, Teresa would wait until I went to bed. Then she'd go to the study. She'd wake up my computer. She'd figured out my password by watching me type it. She'd open my email, my bank accounts, my investment portfolio. She'd photograph each screen. Then she'd send the photos via text message to a contact listed in her phone as P. Patrick. Over 2 weeks, the cameras captured 11 separate incidents of Teresa accessing my computer without authorization. Victoria Shaw downloaded the footage and cataloged every instance: date, time, duration, what was accessed, evidence of transmission. Then we moved to step 3, the disinformation. I started leaving things for Teresa to find. A fake letter from a lawyer discussing selling the Sycamore Road property. A printed email about transferring investment accounts to a new custodian. A notepad by the phone with the words, Jean, appraisal, Tuesday, scribbled on it. Nom. Me of it was real. The lawyer letter was written by Victoria. The email was created on a fake account. The notepad entry was bait. Teresa photographed all of it. She sent it all to Patrick, and Patrick reacted exactly as we expected. 3 days after Teresa sent the fake lawyer letter, Patrick called me. "Dad, I heard you're thinking about selling the house." "Where did you hear that?" I have sources. People in Savannah talk. People in Savannah don't know anything about my plans. Well, whoever told me, I think it's a great idea. The market's hot right now. You could get $700,000 easily, maybe more. I'm not selling, Patrick. Dad, think about it. You're 65, alone in a house that's way too much to maintain. If you sell now... Who told you I was thinking about selling? Silence. Then, it doesn't matter. The point is that nobody told you anything because I'm not selling. So either you're making this up or someone in my house is feeding you information. Which is it? Patrick stammered, recovered, changed the subject. But the damage was done. He'd revealed that he was receiving information from inside my home, and the cameras had captured Teresa sending that exact information the night before. The trap was working. Over the next 2 weeks, I fed Teresa increasingly specific false information. A fake voicemail from a financial advisor discussing restructuring the trust. A printed bank statement showing a balance of $890,000. Real design, fake numbers. An email from Jean Holloway discussing the sale of secondary properties. Each piece was designed to make Patrick believe I had more assets than he knew about, and that those assets were about to move. The goal was to make him panic, to push him into taking action that would expose his intentions beyond any doubt. It worked. Patrick drove to Savannah unannounced on a Saturday morning. He arrived at 9 a.m., which meant he'd left Atlanta at 5. He was agitated, restless, pacing my living room while Teresa served coffee. "Dad, we need to have a serious conversation about your future." "My future is fine, Patrick." "It's not fine. You're sitting on a fortune in this house and in those accounts, and you're not doing anything with it. You need a plan, a financial plan, and I can help." "Help how?" "Let me manage your finances. I'll consolidate everything, the house, the investments, the trust, into a single managed portfolio. I have connections. I can grow your money." "You want me to give you control of my money?" "I want to manage it, professionally, for the family's benefit." "Whose benefit specifically?"
Patrick's veneer cracked, just for a second. Everyone's, Dad. Yours, mine, James's, the family. And what would managing my finances involve? Power of attorney. Temporary. Just so I can act on your behalf with the banks and the trust.
There it was. Power of attorney. The same play every financial predator makes. Get the signature. Get the control. Take everything. No, I said. Dad, no, Patrick. I'm not giving you power of attorney. I'm not giving you access to my accounts. And I'm not giving you this house. Patrick's face hardened. You're making a mistake. You're 65 years old, living alone. I'm not living alone. Teresa's here. The caretaker you hired to look after me. I paused. Or was she hired for something else?
Patrick went very still.
What do you mean?
I mean, Teresa has been accessing my computer every night for the past 2 months, photographing my bank accounts, my emails, my financial documents, and sending them to you. The color drained from Patrick's face. I have it all on camera, Patrick. Every night. Every document she accessed, every photograph she took, every text she sent to the contact listed as P in her phone. Teresa, who had been standing in the doorway holding a coffee tray, dropped it. The tray clattered to the floor. Coffee splashed across Diane's hardwood. That's not... I was just... Teresa started.
You were just doing what my son paid you to do, I said calmly. Spy on me, report my finances, help him build a case to take control of my estate. Patrick stood up. Dad, this is crazy. Teresa is a caretaker. She's on camera, Patrick. 11 documented instances of unauthorized access to my computer. Photographs of my bank statements, my emails, my investment accounts. All transmitted to your phone number. My lawyer has the footage. So does the police department. The room went dead silent. Patrick looked at Teresa. Teresa looked at Patrick. And in that exchange, that silent, panicked glance between two people whose plan had just collapsed, I saw the truth I'd suspected since the funeral. They weren't just co-conspirators. They were partners. The kind of partnership that goes beyond professional arrangement into something more personal. The way she looked at him, the way he looked at her, the familiarity, the intimacy of shared deception. How long have you two been together? I asked quietly. Neither answered, but Teresa's face confirmed it. She looked away. Patrick's jaw tightened. You're sleeping with the woman you hired to spy on your father, I said, while your mother's been dead less than 6 months. Dad, it's not. Get out of my house. Patrick didn't move. Teresa didn't move. They stood there, frozen, caught in the full exposure of what they'd done. I said, get out, both of you. Now. Teresa went to her room and packed her suitcase. She was crying. I didn't feel sorry for her. She'd spent 2 months in my home, eating my food, sleeping under my roof, earning my trust, and reporting every detail of my life to a man who wanted to rob me. Patrick tried one more time. Dad, let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You hired a woman to spy on me. You used her to access my private financial information. You were building a case to take power of attorney and seize my assets. And you were doing all of this while pretending to care about my well-being. I do care. You care about the house, Patrick. You care about the $680,000 it's worth. You care about the investment accounts and the trust fund. You don't care about me. If you cared about me, you wouldn't have put a spy in my home. Patrick left. Teresa left with him. They drove away in his car, and I stood on the porch, Diane's porch, the one she'd rebuilt board by board, and watched them go. Then I called Victoria Shaw. It's done. They're gone. And I have everything on camera, including Patrick admitting he wanted power of attorney.
I'll file with the DA tomorrow morning, Victoria said. And, Franklin, you did this exactly right.
I called James next. He came over within the hour. I sat him down and told him everything. Teresa's spying, Patrick's plan, the cameras, the fake documents, the trap. James listened without interrupting. His face went through stages: confusion, disbelief, anger, and then something quieter: sadness. Teresa was reporting to Patrick the whole time? Every night, for 2 months.
And the fake information you planted, the lawyer letter, the bank statement. Patrick acted on all of it.
Within days. Every time Teresa sent him something, he'd call me trying to get control.
Dad, why didn't you tell me?
Because I needed you to be genuine. If your behavior had changed, Teresa would have noticed. You had to be real. And you were. James sat quietly for a long time. Then he said,
Mum would have caught this on day 1.
She would have caught it before day 1. She would have seen Patrick's plan before he made it. I miss her. Me too, son. Every day. The legal proceedings moved quickly. Victoria filed criminal complaints with the Chatham County DA. The evidence was overwhelming. Camera footage of Teresa accessing my computer 11 times, photographs of transmitted financial documents, phone records confirming the transmissions went to Patrick's number, and recorded audio of Patrick demanding power of attorney. Patrick was charged with conspiracy to commit financial exploitation of an elder, invasion of privacy, and fraud. Teresa was charged with unauthorized computer access, invasion of privacy, and conspiracy. Patrick hired an expensive Atlanta lawyer. His defense was creative, but ultimately futile. He claimed Teresa was merely doing her job as a caretaker by monitoring my computer activity for signs of negative decline. The prosecution dismantled this in minutes by showing that Teresa was photographing bank balances and account numbers, not checking whether I could operate a mouse. The trial lasted 4 days. I testified on the 2nd day. I described the chronology: Patrick's pressure about the house at the funeral, the arrival of Teresa, Charles's discovery at Clary's Cafe, the nighttime surveillance, the cameras, the disinformation campaign. The jury watched the camera footage. 11 nights of Teresa, sitting at my desk in the dark, methodically photographing every financial document she could access. The footage was damning. Teresa's lawyer tried to argue she'd been following instructions without understanding the full picture. The jury didn't buy it. Patrick testified on the 3rd day. His lawyer had coached him to appear concerned and caring, a loving son who'd simply hired a caretaker and was unaware of her nighttime activities. But the prosecution presented his phone records, 47 text messages from Teresa's phone to his, each containing photographs of my private financial information. Each followed by a call from Patrick to me, asking about the exact accounts or documents Teresa had photographed. Mr. Tate, the prosecutor said, you received photographs of your father's bank statements at 11:47 p.m. At 9:02 a.m. the following morning, you called your father and asked about his financial plans. Do you expect this jury to believe that was coincidence? Patrick couldn't answer. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts for both Patrick and Teresa. Sentencing came 5 weeks later. Judge Karen Palmer addressed Patrick directly. Mr. Tate, you placed a surveillance operative in your elderly father's home. You exploited his grief and vulnerability to gain access to his most private information. You did this not out of concern for his health or safety, but to position yourself to seize control of his assets.
The trust your father placed in you. The trust any father places in a son. You weaponized it. Patrick was sentenced to 4 years in state prison. Teresa received 2 years. Both were ordered to pay restitution and were permanently barred from contacting me without court approval. After the sentencing, James drove me home. We sat on the porch, Diane's porch, and watched the sun set over Sycamore Road.
Dad, do you regret the trap? The fake documents, the disinformation? I regret that it was necessary. I don't regret doing it. Do you think Patrick will ever change? I don't know. Your mother would say that people don't change. They just get better or worse at hiding who they are. What do you say?
I thought about it. I say I hope she was wrong, because Patrick is still my son, and I'd like to believe that somewhere underneath the greed and the manipulation, there's still the boy who used to help Diane in the garden.
James squeezed my shoulder. Mom would be proud of you, Dad. She'd be furious that I didn't catch it sooner. Yeah, James laughed.
She would. In the months that followed, life on Sycamore Road settled into something new. James didn't move in. He had his own apartment, his own life. But he came by every evening after coaching practice. He'd bring takeout, or I'd cook. We'd sit on the porch and talk about his students, about Diane, about the house, about nothing and everything. I started doing things I'd neglected. I finished restoring the garden fence Diane had started before she died. I repainted the porch railings. I organized Diane's studio, not to erase her, but to honor the way she'd kept it. Blueprints filed by project. Pencils in the ceramic cup her students had given her. Everything in its place. I also started volunteering at the Chatham County Senior Center, helping other elderly people understand their legal rights, their financial protections, the warning signs of exploitation. Victoria Shaw helped me put together a presentation, Protecting Yourself from the People You Trust.
The title made people uncomfortable. Good. It was supposed to.
One afternoon, about 6 months after the trial, I received a letter from Patrick, written on prison stationery, short, careful. Dad, I'm sorry. I know those words aren't enough. I know what I did was unforgivable. I'm in a program here, counseling, financial accountability, understanding why I did what I did. The counselor says I need to understand the difference between wanting something and deserving it. I wanted your money. I didn't deserve it. I didn't deserve your trust, and I broke it. I don't know if we'll ever have a relationship again, but I wanted you to know that I'm trying to understand what went wrong in me, not what went wrong between us. What went wrong in me. Love, Patrick. I read the letter 3 times. Then I put it in Diane's desk drawer next to the blueprints and the pencils and the ceramic cup. I didn't respond, not because I was angry, because I wasn't ready. Forgiveness isn't a light switch. It's a renovation. It takes time and tools and the willingness to work on something that might not ever look the way it did before. James read the letter when he came by that evening. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Do you believe him?" "I believe he's trying. Whether trying is enough, I don't know yet."
Mom would say actions, not words. Mom would be right. Today it's been 8 months since the trial. The house on Sycamore Road stands exactly as Diane built it, the Victorian details preserved, the garden blooming, the stained glass window above the front door catching the afternoon sun the way it always has. I sit on the porch most evenings. James comes by after practice. Charles brings wine on Fridays. The Senior Center asked me to expand my presentation into a monthly workshop. Victoria Shaw co-teaches it with me. Patrick is in prison.
He has 26 months left on his sentence. I think about him every day, not with anger. Anger burns itself out eventually. With something more complicated. The particular grief of a parent who loves a child he can't trust. Diane's studio is still intact. I go in there sometimes and sit in her chair and look at her last unfinished drawing. A community library with big windows and an open floor plan, the kind of building she always believed in. Spaces designed to be shared. Spaces that belonged to everyone.
That's what Diane understood that Patrick never did. That the things worth having, homes, families, trust, aren't assets to be seized. They're gifts to be honored. You don't own them. You're entrusted with them. And the moment you try to take them by force, you lose them entirely. And to you listening, I need to say this. Trust is the most valuable thing you can give someone, and it's the most dangerous. The people closest to you, your children, your caretakers, the people in your home, they have access to your most private life. Most of them deserve that access. Some of them don't. If something feels wrong, if a caretaker is too curious, if a family member is too interested in your finances, if someone in your home is behaving differently when they think you're not watching, trust that feeling, investigate it, document it, and protect yourself. I'm Franklin Tate. I'm 65 years old. I live in a house my wife built with her own hands. My son tried to take it from me using a woman I trusted. He failed because an old friend overheard a conversation in a cafe, because my wife taught me that instincts matter, and because hidden cameras don't lie. Diane would have caught it faster. She always was sharper than me, but I caught it, and that's enough. If this story touched you, please leave a comment below. Tell me what you think Diane would have done differently. Share this with someone who might need to hear it. And subscribe for more stories about family, betrayal, and the truth that always finds its way out. Before we close, this story, like all stories on this channel, contains fictional elements crafted for entertainment and educational purposes. If this type of content isn't for you, that's completely okay. Take care of yourselves. But if you stayed until the end, thank you. Diane would have appreciated that. She always valued people who paid attention. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go finish that garden fence. I promised her I would.